All right, what's happening, y'all? It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington. I'm here with my review for the 5th episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. Now, if you have not seen this episode yet, you know the drill. Come on back, because it will be spoilers. The third time's a charm. And what I mean by that is the third time recording this. First time I recorded it, I messed it up. Second time, I was like, I forgot a lot to talk about. Third time, I'm like, let's do it and see what happens. It'll come out later in the day, but it'll still be out. Thank you to everybody who has rocked with your boy for the past 4 or 5 weeks, man. We've had a lot of fun in the comments. Everybody was like, yo, did you really sing Crossroads about the death of Battlestar? And I was like, yeah. See that nigga at the Crossroads? He's with my Uncle Charles, y'all. Or should I hit this nigga with this song's dedicated to my homie in that gangster lean? Why did you have to go so soon? It seems like, yeah. I just feel like that's the one I should have sung. Either way it goes, man, nigga's gone. Gone. This episode, like, it hit on so much, on so many levels, on such an emotional level, especially for black people. Let's just call it for what it is. You know, I talked about it last week, how there's some people like, oh my God, this show's too woke, and there's too many political messages in the show, and like, clearly you've never read a fucking comic book in your life. But let's just kick it off how, you know, I try not to go beat by beat, but this one has so much where you got Walker freaking out, you know, as he didn't kill the dude. Now he's basically the reason Lamar's dead, and you have Sam and Bucky confront him, and he's fighting them. He's like, yo, why are you making me do this? And then he even yells out at what point, I am Captain America, as he rips off Sam's fucking wings. Like, we now know them bitches ain't vibranium. These motherfuckers got it ripped off like Velcro. But if you noticed, during that fight, there was a lot of symbolism to a couple Marvel movies that we've had in the past already. The initial fight with Sam and Bucky versus Walker looked somewhat similar to the fight with Bucky and Steve versus Tony in Captain America Civil War. And then the moment where you got Bucky holding him down and Sam trying to pull off the shield, a la Infinity War, where basically Star-Lord fucked the entire universe. Let's just, because they had the gauntlet off. It was on the nigga's fingertips. And you know what I'm saying? He was like, don't engage. But all of that. And then you get, after they finally beat him, knock him down, Bucky picks up the shield and then drops it at Sam's feet. And that was just a cold opening of the episode. It's just like, we're into this. Again, 6 episodes total. And I know some people have said this could have been its own film. You know, it didn't need 6 episodes. And I disagree respectfully, because one thing these shows have done so far in the 2 we've gotten is introduce a larger world of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in the process of introducing it, building it out and building out characters, which will be with us going forward, and giving us backstories from where some of these characters will come from and have come from. Torres comes up, and basically at one point, you know, he addresses everything. They take John into custody, and you know, Sam shows Torres the bag with the wings and everything, and he's like, yo, you keep it. He's like, yo, keep the wings. And then Sam walks off with the shield. You got Walker in a Senate committee hearing where he is being he's on a Senate subcommittee hearing, on trial for everything. And basically Walker says, you made me this monster, you know, you don't understand what it takes, et cetera, et cetera. He's having this rage fit. It's almost like the super soldier serum with him is a condensed, I'm sorry, I have a fucking eyebrow pimple and it's annoying the dog shit out of me. It's like a super condensed version of steroids for him, if you notice. Not only did it make him strong, but his roid rage was through the roof. This nigga was like Scott Steiner on a dirt road like 12, 15 years ago, if not longer. Wrestling fans understand that reference. But he's sitting snapping up to them. They don't know what it takes to be Captain America. And the Senate subcommittee's like, yo, you'll be, you know, dishonorably discharged. You'll be paid retroactively, but you don't get benefits. You get nothing. You're out of here. You can't be the Cap anymore. If you try to, basically, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna recommend a full court martial. And he's sitting outside talking to his girl, and a big major cameo happens, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus appears, and she's Contessa Valentina Allegra Del Fontaine. Now, this is a very big cameo because not only does she, she knows he took the serum first and foremost. She also tells him like, well, the shield technically ain't government property. It's not the U.S. property. It's kind of a gray area because is it really Wakanda's or is it Shield's? Now, well, actually, the SSR, which becomes Shield. Here's where Contessa, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, comes in a big way. The Contessa is a former member of Shield who worked directly with Nick Fury. She eventually turned out to be a Hydra spy. Now, she is also a big part of The Secret Invasion, which also is an upcoming Disney Plus show. So, do we have Julia Louis-Dreyfus going forward for a while? Possibly. Now, she is responsible for the FemForce in Marvel Comics, and so, we'll see. You get Carly talking about how long do we have to prove, basically, she's mourning the loss of Matthias, and talking about how long do we have to prove that we belong as citizens of this planet, which is crazy because you hear that same discussion happen when it comes to how long do I have to prove I belong as a citizen of this country, or the city, state, and where a lot of people are dealing with that now, especially for those who are watching from overseas, those in America. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Y'all already know how to do. Black people are fighting with this right every day. We're fighting for our right to prove we have just the right to live. You are seeing a lot of black and brown people being murdered by police officers, and every time a black or brown person is murdered by a police officer, here comes some white person in the comments somewhere telling them, well, if they just would have complied and listened, they'd have still been alive. And I'm like, yo, let me tell you something. If that crime, none of those crimes that these people are being currently under surveillance, whatever you want to call the word, none of them are capital punishment crimes. Well, the officer wants to make it home alive. I get that. I understand that. But there's none of these crimes are capital punishment crimes. Now, if you have a person who is pointing a weapon and charging at the officer and causing bodily harm, risking bodily harm and death, etc., that's understandable. But in many of these cases, again, Dante Wright was pulled over for a traffic stop and $346 in fines. And because the cop who shot and killed him, who was a trainer, the bitch is the president of the police union, who is now under arrest, says she mistook her taser for her pistol for her taser. But you trained cops. You was training a cop that day. I digress. Zemo goes to the memorial. He talked about the Sokovia Memorial. People have died. And Bucky approaches him. And then he knows that Bucky's there to kill him. Finally. Like, he's about to end the situation. And Bucky has the pistol. Pull that bitch. The bitch clicks and just drops every bullet that was in the clip. And you see that he's turned him over to the Dora. And Io takes him. And Io says, you might want to stay your ass away from Wakanda for a little while, white wolf. And she's like, all right, bet. But listen, I need a favor. Now, you pretty much could guess what that favor was going to be. I kind of put two and two together at that moment. But this get real. This is the part where it got real. Sam goes to visit Elijah. And he has a shield. And, he's walking and... Isaiah, not visit Elijah. Apologize. And Elijah's outside playing basketball. And he's like, yo, what you doing? And he's like, I'm going to see your grandpa. And he sees him by himself. He tells him in the garden. And Sam goes in the back, sees Isaiah watering the garden. He's about to take the shield out the satch. And Isaiah's like, leave that in there. No. And basically, he was, he said, those stars and stripes don't mean no good to me. Again, because of him carrying that shield and having that mantle at one point of being Captain America as a black man, it inevitably resulted in him being arrested and poked and prodded and treated as a lab rat for 30 years. You hear... him talking about the Red Tails and the famous 332 and how they were heroes in the war for this country. These are black men who were fighting a battle for a country that when they came back home had crosses burned in their lawn. This is not a made up story. This is not some woke tale. This is real shit that happened. This is about the way black veterans were treated in this country. We just saw one in Virginia who's on active duty in uniform, pulled over by a cop for no reason, and the only reason the cop starts getting aggressive when he asks why was he being pulled over. People are like, oh, well, he had a gun in the car on the floor. It was in Virginia. It's fucking legal there. Again, black people are fighting for their humanity and right to live in this country. There's no racism. You're a fucking liar. The police system as we know it needs to be abolished and reestablished. What this is, the old slave patrol that has morphed into the police force of today, is non-competent. You have Sam tell Isaiah, was like, yo, you were like Steve. You could have been the next. He was like, what? Next blonde hair, blue eyes, stars and stripes. He said the world's been chasing the great white hype since Steve took that serum. He talks about how he basically, him and a bunch of other black men, black soldiers, were super soldiers. They were all test subjects. And they were sent on battles, and they were trying to find out how the other soldiers were lab rats, and they weren't successful or stable with the serum, and he was. And at one point, they all were kidnapped, and the government was going to bomb the whole place to erase the evidence, meaning they didn't care about the lives of these soldiers. They just didn't want the enemy to get their hands on the bodies and the serum. And Isaiah breaks out, saves them, and when he comes back home, he's arrested for 30 years. This is the same shit that Steve Rogers did in... They were told to leave him be because he made it free, but he went back and did it. This is the same shit Steve Rogers did in the first Avenger, where the Howling Commandos were kidnapped. Steve was told to let it go, and he goes back and frees them, and he's a hero. He's celebrated. The black man is arrested for 30 years. And he says it wasn't until a nurse felt pity upon him and had him declared dead that he was able to be free. And in the process, they told Isaiah's wife he had died. They never gave him a letter she wrote. You hear about these things happening to this day to prisoners where they don't receive their letters. And I know some people are going to say potentially, oh, well, you're a prisoner. This is a privilege. This is luxury, blah, blah, blah. Why is that the only case when it comes to black and brown prisoners? Now, am I going to say this doesn't happen to white prisoners? It does, depending on the crime. You have some heinous people who aren't allowed to have any communication, but then you have those who are just treated as shit. Isaiah talks about how they were worried his story might get out, so they buried him and his history. So the same way they've been doing for my people for 500 years, which again, I know people get tired of hearing, well, why black people always bring up slavery, reparations, a long time ago. I ain't own no slaves. You ain't got to own slaves. You own the benefit of what slavery was. You own the reaping of the rewards of the harvest from what slavery brought forth in this country. Again, am I saying black people don't have a chance to advance? Not at all, because many of us have. You see many excellent black scholars, black businessmen and women, black athletes, celebrity success stories all the way around, but you also see how hard they have to fight. And again, you have Sam, who eventually decides he wants to train with the shield. And there's one scene in particular where he's throwing the shield and he's trying to learn how to catch it. And at one point he has to catch it with two hands because it's an allegory for how black people have to work twice as hard to get the first place where their white counterparts are. There's another big comparison that I think we caught this whole series. Sam working on the boat. Sam trying to fix the boat. He's trying to fix the legacy, to maintain the legacy of the boat, of his family, what that was. That's his heritage. And now at the same time with the shield, he has to change the legacy, the story of the shield. Because the shield in itself, America doesn't want to see this as Captain America. And again, people think it may be a thing of, oh, they're just making this up for the story of, again, this is just a comic book thing, but look at real life. Hell, look at the fact of how the comic book character itself was treated in real life. When Marvel decided to introduce Sam Wilson as Captain America, people, racists, lost their fucking minds. How dare you make a darky Captain America? What? Oh, but let me guess, we were in a post-racial world because we elected a black president twice who caught all hell in the handbag. Don't give me policy shit because that's not what I'm here for. I'm talking about just him being belittled and criticized and scrutinized. Remember the tan suit incident where everybody act like it was a cardinal fucking sin? You have Sam being able to call in favors from the community who wanted to help the Wilsons no matter what. But one of the things also happens is you get Bucky flirting with Sarah and Sarah flirting back with Bucky. Bucky won't get that chocolate swirl. Look, Bucky just horny. Bucky was supposed to holler at the girl that works at the Asian restaurant. He dipped on that because he couldn't handle everything. Now you trying to get some. Bucky just need to get laid. I believe the Winter Soldier program will completely deactivate once he busts a nut. Like once Bucky finally just get that, he be long and benign, rainbow, boxcar, all that shit. They just bust and he be good. His whole mind will be clear. But that's also another thing, you know, trying to accept the legacy of who you are and who you can become. Bucky's still terrified, tormented by nightmares of what he did as the Winter Soldier, and not understand, not trying, not moving forward. And it's even parts where you see him helping Sam with the boat, and Bucky uses his right hand and just he has to put strength to it and use things. The Sam even says, "Why you just didn't use the robot arm?" He says, "Sometimes I don't think about it. I don't think I just use my regular arm." And it's like, yo, you have to remember now that the Winter Soldier deeds that you did in the past are done. You are the Winter Soldier, but not that Winter Soldier. Just as Sam has to come to grips with, you are Captain America. But at the one point, even back in the conversation with Isaiah says, "You can pledge allegiance to that, my brother, and they will never let a black man be Captain America." But then, even if they do, what self-respecting black man would ever want to be? Again, Isaiah is upset because of the way the country treated him. And again, when you see a lot of things, we talk about how black men would want to be a cop because of the way police officers treat the black community, or would want to be in the military or certain other positions. But then you hear of these brothers and sisters who say, y'all want to change things from the inside, and you can't be mad at them for that. You can't fault them. A lot of people, I was just having this discussion, shout out to Xavier Pope, Brent B. Pope, so many people I talked with earlier on Twitter Spaces. We were talking about how, some people feel the way Sam is being portrayed in this, whereas he's supposed to be the quote unquote lackey to pick up for the mistakes of the country what they did to Isaiah Bradley, and that's not the case. Sam has always been a man with his own emotions, his own conflict, but one of the things is he's always listened to everything and seen everything and observed everything. Pay attention to how we were introduced to Sam in The Winter Soldier. He was running a group for veterans who were suffering from PTSD and trying to get back assimilated into the world and things like that. And so we have to see this. Sam has never been portrayed as being the all black man and I'm all for the struggle, red, black, and green. He's never been portrayed as that. He's just a regular black man who just happened to be a soldier. Literally, think about it. He decided to go to the military, became a soldier, got out. Captain America pulled him back in. He's never officially came back in the military. Captain America brought him back to fight. He became an Avenger. He helped save the world a couple times. Got his ass snapped the fuck out of existence and brought back 5 years later and is trying to reassimilate his life. It's not, it's not saying he's oblivious and he's dumb or naive fully. I think he's somewhat naive, but when you live a life a certain way, there's certain things you don't see. There are certain black men and women who never will experience racism within its direct self because they're beneficiaries of someone being racist to someone else. Probably wondering what the fuck am I talking about? Fuck it, I say it. Black people on Fox News. They're always like, oh, there's no racism in America. That's just the left making it always seems about racism. This has nothing to do with left or right. There are a bunch of white liberals who are racist as shit. The woke ones, too. We know there are a bunch of white conservatives, racist. Hispanic, Asian, black, whatever. But when it comes to black people, you got to remember, the ones that will smile in your face, laugh at you once you turn your back. That happens a lot of times. You had Stacey Dash recently talking about I felt it was bad for tugging and supporting the orange fuck muppet, and now I need black people to have my back. Chris said Michelle, etc., etc. But nonetheless, we see Sharon on the phone making a phone call. She's on the phone with Batroc, and she's telling him like, "Yo, I got a job for you. It's gonna give you double out of. If it wasn't for me, you'd still be in jail in the Algiers prison." And at one point after that, so then it makes the conversation of, is Sharon the power broker? Or is this another red herring that Marvel is throwing our way? Now, this would have technically been the first red herring, because again, thanks COVID, the time in which the series would have came out. I think this could be a situation where she is the power broker, and a lot of us are overthinking and like, no, why would she be the power broker and blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's the Contessa, or maybe it's somebody we haven't seen yet. I mean, either way it goes. If it is, it is. It isn't, it isn't. I just am happy. I'm just like and having fun, speculating and theorizing and not breaking my brain and being mad at Twitter on Twitter. How the fuck the Raiders going? No. Bad Rock comes to see Carly, who's in the park, and she's setting up the flag smashes, and she has her thing on the phone where they come to meet up, and she has a crate full of ammo that Bad Rock is giving, and she's about to go march on a building in New York where the GRC is about to try to pass the Patch Act, which is going to allow people who were displaced, who were gone during the snapping. Fucking calling the blip coming back. The snap and snapping. I know some of y'all don't like it, but God damn it, it's how I'm living my soul. They're trying to stop that, and then we end the episode. Then we have a post-credit scene where Walker is making his own fucking shield. And he is welding in his medals of honor. So again, we're going to get U.S. agent out of that. This episode was a lot about black patriotism. There's been a lot of discussion about that over the past couple years. It started heavily with Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the anthem and many other people starting to kneel for the anthem. And, being like, I'm not going to celebrate a country that doesn't celebrate me. And then people saying, well, you got to respect the country and stand. And half the people, you'd be like, yo, do you stand all the fucking time for the flag? Yeah, your fat ass sits on the couch when it happens during a TV show, on TV or something like that. When you're in a stadium, if you're at concessions, you're not stopping. So calm down. Calm down, Jethro. But black patriotism has been a thing. That whole people who always say the stupid ass statement, well, if you don't love America, why don't you leave? Fuck out of here. I don't have to leave I don't have, and I'm saying I in general, I don't have to leave the country because I don't fucking like it. Also, believe it or not, if people were easily able to go, there wasn't a lot of, red tape and jurisdiction and the fact that a lot of the world hates Americans, people would leave easily. There are many people who have depatriated themselves and moved to other countries. But it's not as simple as you think. Just want to put that out there. But black patriotism is a thing because, again, when you look at how the country has treated black people, and I am not just talking slavery. No. I am not just talking segregation, though I am. But I am talking situations like Black Wall Street that the country and the world just found out about thanks to Damon Lindelof and Watchmen. And then Lovecraft Country did it. And now other places have been talking about it. And now you have so many people who are scholars like, I never knew this was a thing. You're a fucking scholar. How did you not know? You chose not to know. The Black Wall Street in Tulsa is one thing. What happened to bombing in Philadelphia and the bombing in several other cities that were profitable black communities, and because they were profitable and self-sustaining on their own, the country didn't like that. Because they felt, oh, how are you going to segregate yourself and make your own wealth and not include us? Well, you already said I can't be included in that. So we made our own. So again, when it comes to black patriotism, we're here, but do we always... We don't get to fit in everything. Things we're qualified to fit in, things we're qualified to be a part of. We don't get those opportunities. So when we do our own thing, we're looked down upon. You have a lot of men and women who join the armed forces, who many do it. It's weird. So check this out. When non-black men and women do it, it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a duty to serve your country. When a black man or woman does it, it's a good opportunity for you. It's a good thing. You can possibly get a lot out of this. What? There are some black generals, and maybe not major generals. There are some black people who have made amazing careers throughout the military. But the presentation of what that is for a people is never weighed the same. The presentation of what joining the military will do for one black man as opposed to one white man who comes in same level of education and everything of the sorts, it's not presented as the same. Get what I'm saying? Again, these are just real parts of a conversation that this show opens up. Now, again, in the discussion I had, some people said that this isn't an accurate description of the way of the black life in America and everything. If this show had to go to a full-on accurate black description of life in America, you know how long it would be before we got to any action in the goddamn show? And that is not what this show is about. Don't get me wrong. I love to see a real full-on portrayal of what we go through. But at the same time, I am tired of seeing it. I have said sometimes I am tired of seeing black trauma porn in TV shows and movies. Not saying, meaning like Oh, we got to talk about all the racism. Let me show you the horrible racism that black people go through. Let me show you the hate and devastation. And we consistently see it. So we don't need it in this. This is a comic book show that is an action-based show. It is tied to one of the arguably the greatest comic book movies ever, in Captain America: Winter Soldier. It's one of my top 2, top 3 films out of all of them, Marvel or DC or any other company. But we have one episode left. Sam has a case from Bucky, which we can pretty much assume is the favor Bucky called in from Wakandans. It's his new Captain America suit with unbreakable vibranium wings. If you haven't seen the toy, you can Google the Falcon and the Winter Soldier toy to see what the suit looks like before the episode airs. But Sam does have his suit. Now, again, what will the country say after he, has the shield? And they still go, not my cap, hashtag never Captain America. Then who you gonna go, John Walker? Well, he might have killed somebody, but that's okay. Yeah, but the black Captain America probably won't do that. And if he did, you'd have him hung, drawn, and quartered. This show has opened up a discussion that many times is too taboo, if you will, to talk about for so many, especially in the comic book world. Because again, there are so many people, I don't want to bring politics in and all this in my comics, when that's what the majority of comics are anyway. Star Wars is a political saga. Star Trek is political. Everything is it was politically inspired. You just don't like it because it shows the ugly truth you try to hide. Now, whether you feel somebody is virtue signaling or not, they're not. It's telling the truth. This country, this world is fucked up. The Global Repatriation Committee is sort of what you see in a lot of other cases in a lot of different governments. It's ugh. But listen, nonetheless, as always, let's keep this conversation going down in those comments below. Keep this shit civil. Keep this shit cool. Because if you don't, I will remove your motherfucking ass like a stain in a Tide Pen commercial. If you start acting stupid, I swear for God, I will block you like Dikembe Mutombo blocking a rubber after a night at the strip club. Please don't test me. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. Check out the Mad Titan podcast. Everywhere you get your podcast from, and get you caught up on all the things happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. It is barbershop talk for nerds. Come on in the convo. Blurds in the Hood every Tuesday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. Me and my brother, Mr. Winston A. Marshall. We talk about the world of pop culture, sports, news, entertainment, politics, and a whole lot more from a Blurds perspective. And we are unapologetically black, all right? I will holler at y'all next week for the finale. Take care. I'm out. Bye.